Assalamu alaikum, ya ali madad, namaste, sat sri akal, munjo nalo ahe Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. I ma hikro environmentalist आया, artist भी आया, फनकार आया और समाजी कारकुन भी आया और मुंजलाए ही फ़ख्र जी गालाए कि अभी तो मेरी सिंधी ख़त्म हो गई कि मैं आमना के साथ that I can sit with Amna and do this interview and talk about wildlife, environment, the future, the past, and all things in between. So thank you for this opportunity, and it's been a lovely way to end my day.
Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, the bada naam, multi-ethnic, multifaceted personality. आपने बाहर पढ़ा और आप वापस आ गए. So पहला सवाल, when I see your body of work and I see the humanitarian work that you do in Karachi, and I look at you and I see that, okay, this is son of the soil. This is somebody who's getting his hands dirty, you know, with the people and at such a pure grassroots level. And I think कि यार बच्चे बाहर पढ़ने जाते हैं और उनको दुनिया नजर आती है, वो वापस नहीं आना चाहते. अब वापस क्यों आए?
आपने एक लफ्ज बोला son of the soil, मतलब एक
phrase.
पहले मैं बहुत लाइक करता था son of the soil, अभी मैं लाइक नहीं करता.
You don't like that term?
क्योंकि फिर we then start to define कि इस धरती कौन belong करता है.
Right.
And this is very dangerous thinking.
Okay.
For example, if we say that Sindh, who is the son of the soil in Sindh? जो सिर्फ और सिर्फ सिंधी लोग हैं, मगर सिंधी बलोच भी मौजूद हैं, सिंधी ब्राहुई भी मौजूद हैं, सदियों साल से सिंधी पख्तून भी हैं, और सिंधी मारवाड़ी भी हैं, सिंधी पारकरी भी हैं, और सिंधी बर्मीज भी हैं, सिंधी बंगाली भी हैं. तो क्या इनका हक नहीं है इस धरती का? So this term has been weaponized to exclude people. So I'm proud to be a son of the soil, but I embrace my brothers and sisters on this soil as well.
But I'm being very inclusive when I'm using
no,
that
you
phrase.
are, of course.
What I mean is somebody who identifies, who feels that they're son of the soil.
Definitely.
That could be anybody.
Definitely. But I did just want to clarify this because I think especially nowadays in this atmosphere of migration and our own refugee crisis.
Of course,
it's
that's a big conversation.
It's a big conversation.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to sort of clarify my position on that terminology first. I love getting my hands dirty. And I love my Sindh. I love my Sindh precisely for the reason that even at the expense of its own safety, it has welcomed so many people.
Right.
It has embraced so many different ways of thinking. It has included so many different saints, figures, prophets, gods, goddesses, whatever religion you follow, of course. And we must hold on to that openness. It's okay, of course, that's not to say that in your own home, you know, whatever, you allow a sort of a mayhem to occur. But in your own society, I mean, we should be at best accepting and at worst tolerant.
Right.
Now I think you asked
why did you come back?
Why did I come back?
Because let's be honest, I mean, okay, the city does welcome people, but it's not very welcoming to any sort of diversity,
Yeah.
to anybody who has a different opinion than what is expected of them.
Yeah.
It's not very welcoming. It's very ruthless. It's
Can
very
be.
violent.
Can be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been 4 years since I moved back officially.
Right.
That's not to say I wasn't coming back and forth before, but I've been here 4 years taking control of the house duties
Right.
and all of those things. Living there,
And when we say there, it's
I'm talking about US.
LA, right? It was,
I was in San Francisco.
you were in San Francisco.
Yeah, San Francisco.
Yeah.
So, chalo, disco chalte rehte. Chalte rahenge. And you lose yourself in that place. And when I say you lose yourself, I don't mean you lose yourself in a Sufi fana. You've lost your ego. No. Your ego has made you lose yourself.
You lose your soul?
You lose your soul.
Right.
You lose your soul, and you are the people around you, even the most leftist, even the most liberal, even your fellow Pakistani expats or South Asian expats or Arab expats, they also start to believe that is in fact that the US or that city, San Francisco, is the best possible place that you could be.
Right, and still.
But I stopped believing that.
Right.
I stopped believing that. I stopped believing that the US was the best possible place I could be. It felt empty. It felt vapid. And it really started to feel like Shaitan al-Kabir. Right?
The axis of evil.
The axis of evil. The ultimate devil whisperer.
Yeah.
Who said into your ear, no, this is what you're meant to do. This is what you're meant to be.
Yeah.
But I don't regret my time there at all.
Of course.
And I don't regret what I did there at all.
Right.
I am in fact grateful that I was able to see a side of myself that I that existed and that was allowed to exist, but doesn't have to play out again, right? I think in many ways we go through these journeys where we try and find who we are all the time. And we think that we find it, and we think that we have to carry that self with us all the time. But I don't think that's necessarily true. I think we unlock aspects of our personality, and we then unlock other aspects of our personality as well. I do feel in Pakistan, or in Karachi, in Sindh especially, that I am my full self.
You are. I was going to ask this. Did you have to lock up parts of your personality, or do they stay unlocked? Do you miss parts of your personality that you had?
I think obviously I do things differently.
Yeah.
But I don't think I actually did cast away aspects of my personality. I simply Sindhiofied them.
Right.
I saw that in our Sindhi culture, there is no prejudice against color. The prejudice against color is a classist prejudice that exists in the landed gentry, in the city folk, in the urban folk, right? This prim and proper beige, white and black and blue and navy blue. But among the general Sindhi landscape, the traditional Sindhi landscape, color is celebrated.
Yeah.
So I embraced that part of it, right? Whatever eccentricities that I had that existed in the West, I could make them eccentricities that were suited to a Sindhi cultural value.
Right.
And I do believe in cultural values.
Right.
I do very much believe in Sindhi cultural values.
Zulfikar, what is culture to you?
What is culture?
That's such a loaded question, but
What
yeah,
is
what
culture? Culture is a flexible thing. I think it changes, and I think we're seeing a cultural shift in Pakistan.
Right.
I have seen in my own lifetime a cultural shift in Pakistan, where we're suddenly, and the cultural shift I'm seeing is that when we used to have a sort of laissez-faire attitude to things, इनके घर में यही होता है और हमारे घर में यही चलता है. Now the cultural shift is हमारे society में ये चलना चाहिए. Right? It's gone outside of the individual home, the individual...
You feel so?
I feel so very much. I feel there's a lot of pressure on people to conform, especially in Karachi.
Right.
And that pressure of conformity is bleeding into the rest of Sindh.
Of course.
When it didn't used to be. I think the last frontier that we have of true cultural Sindhi sort of diversity, heterodoxy, difference is currently Tharparkar.
Right. Right.
I think that is the last frontier of a true, okay, we can say specifically a true Sindhi identity, but we can expand that even into a true Pakistani identity, right? The fact that that each house has its own rasam, each house has its own thaqafat, each house has its own tradition, riwayat, right?
Yeah.
And it's the last frontier of that, and I'm talking about Mirpur Khas all the way to Kasbo and Nagar Parkar, to the border of India, to Kutch. Right? This is the last frontier where people are holding on to the fact that being Pakistani can mean being Hindu, it can mean being Zikri, it can mean being Ahlul Bayt, it can mean being Sunni, all on one street.
Absolutely. And being okay with it.
And being okay with it. And it not being
it.
something worth mentioning. I mean, this is the thing, right? When people are like, no, we have it here, there's a place, look, there's the Hindus over there. Why should we have to call it? Why should we have to say it, right? That means there's a problem.
Yeah.
That means there's a problem. When we have to say, okay, no, everything's fine, there's still a Hindu family here, and there's still a Christian family here. There's something wrong when you have to be like, no, it's fine, Yeah.
It means it's not as homogenized as it should be.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
But the land does pose a lot of problems, Zulfikar, and the floods, for example, they were devastating.
Right.
And a big cause that you've taken up is the blind dolphin. And I was talking to your associate, and he said that there were 155 and up there over 2,000.
Yes.
So that's like reassuring.
Yes.
So kuch ho raha hai? Matlab hai ki what's happening?
So
and why was this something that you picked up on?
Yeah. So I have an organization, Bulan Bachao.
Bulan meaning in Sindhi it's the dolphin.
Dolphin. It's a Sindhi and Saraiki
When
word.
did you start speaking? Bachpan se hi Sindhi or
nahi? हाने माँ सिंधी समझा थो
इतनी तो मैं भी समझ लेती हूँ
गलाई सके थो आई वक्त सांगड और भी गलाइंदम
You're struggling, my friend.
I'm struggling but Bulhan is a Sindhi word, it's a Saraiki word. Probably at one time it was a Punjabi word.
Right.
So Hasnain, my associate, who mentioned that fact and figure. So in 1969, Ayub Khan's government was basically solidly convinced of the fact that the Indus River dolphin was extinct.
In 1969?
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason why he held on to that was because, great, it's extinct. Now we can build as many dams as many barrages as we want.
Right.
Then in that year, an Italian scientist, Giorgio Pillari, came to Pakistan on the invitation of a hunter who said there's a possibility that there are still dolphins.
Right.
And he took him to a spot just north of Sakkar. And in a small sort of channel of the Indus, because the Indus doesn't just flow in one line, it has braids, it's a braided river.
Yeah.
And in that, the local fishermen had kept 2 young dolphins.
Okay.
And that was shocking for him.
Right.
And he studied these dolphins. He even took them to Switzerland. And it's interesting. In Pakistan, we forget there are these radical histories that we have.
Absolutely.
These radical histories of conservation. Two fishermen, Karam Ilahi was his name. His son is now part of the Sindh Wildlife Department, Nazir Mirani. Karam Ilahi kept 2 young, 1 male, 1 female river dolphins for this man to study. Karam Ilahi belonged to a family, belonged to a caste, a tribe called the Jabbar. The Jabbar are a subcaste of the Mohana, who are the boat people of Sindh.
Okay.
Who live on boats and who spent their lives on boats.
This is an education, yeah.
So this thing, we've lost a lot of this.
Yeah.
Not just in the past 100 years, we've lost this in the past 20 years. In my own lifetime, I've seen the disappearance of this community.
Yeah.
From Sakkar especially. So, and of course I can go on and on and on, but the Jabbar used to hunt the dolphin.
Right, because?
For blubber.
Right.
For blubber, they used to use it to oil ships, they used to use it for fire, lamps, fuel.
Very vicious.
Yeah, it's vicious, but it was precisely that indigenous knowledge that then was borrowed by the Sindh Wildlife Department for conservation.
Okay.
Because, and this is where we have the difference between indigeneity and development. Right? Because yes, they hunted them, but they hunted them in a way that was, I mean, if it can be said, respectful. They understood how they swam.
Right.
They understood how many they were.
Breeding cycles.
They understood breeding cycles. They understood how they could hear.
Yeah.
They understood how they could breathe.
Because they're blind.
Because they're blind.
Are they actually blind?
They are clinically speaking blind. They can tell differences between light and dark, but their world is reflected to them via a very complex echolocation system, by which they emit click sounds they sound almost like alien telegrams.
Amazing.
It's a continuous, like, broop, broop, broop. It sounds like a sonar. Broop, broop, broop. And it's that rhythmic, right? And that, if you just close your eyes and you imagine that sound goes from here, it shoots out, and that world that they see is beyond our comprehension. They're not just seeing a black space and then a fish.
Yeah. Like
a fish sort of whatever, like the sonar grabs the fish. No, they're seeing the waves in the water, they're seeing the dust in the water, they're seeing debris in the water, they're seeing the fish in the water. So you're imagining a kaleidoscope of things that if we were to go in with the best technology that we have, our visual senses would not be able to comprehend what they are quote unquote seeing. Right? And the sound does not takraofy like into their ears. No, it goes into their melon, their head, into the frontal cortex. This frontal cortex is the same frontal cortex that our brain processes our vision from. Right. So they're not. That's the thing. They're not hearing their environment. They are seeing. They are seeing, but they're seeing through a whole other spectrum. Yeah. You know. So Um, um,
So a lot of research was done on them.
a lot of
and
research was done on them at this time, and it became foundational. And the Sindh Wildlife Department
It's good to know that the Sindh Wildlife Department is actually doing something.
well, since 1974. So Sindh Wildlife
Amazing.
Department was created in 1974. The impetus being the Indus River dolphin.
What did they have to say about the marshes that they took down?
The Sindh Wildlife Department.
Yeah.
I mean, that has been a process which marshes are you talking about? The Boat Basin marshes?
Yes.
Yes. Which time? There's been several moments in which those marshes have gone.
I just remember that we used to drive by.
Yes,
and there used to be nests of eagles, and there was so much wildlife there.
Yes,
and suddenly they were all sitting on the ground, and it was a heartbreaking visual when they took those marshes out. And all those birds were suddenly homeless.
Well, this is the thing. The Sindh Wildlife Department has its bureaucratic limits.
Of course.
And of course, I'm not, because I know people in Sindh Wildlife Department, I don't want to share what they go through, what the various politics is within that. But with the Indus River dolphin, they are, and Bulhan Bachao, our organization, went to Colombia. We went to South America at the Global Declaration for River Dolphins, representing Pakistan. And Pakistan was held as an example of dolphin conservation, because what the Sindh Wildlife Department did that is still unique to this day in dolphin conservation is that they saw that what was specific to our situation, what was the one specific threat to the dolphins. Okay, the hunting of the dolphins was banned. It took
pollution.
It took 10 years for that ban on the hunting to totally disappear. Then there's no evidence. There's no dolphin oil in the market. There's no dolphin bones in the market. There's no dolphin flesh in the market. Dolphins, by the way, are haram. There's no evidence of poaching for the sake of poaching. The canal irrigation system was their biggest enemy.
Right.
And especially at Sakhar. There are 7 canals that draw out from Sakhar Barrage. And the dolphins follow an ancient rasam of their own, which is that in the flood season. So the reason why we have so many boat communities in Sindh is because in the flood season, Sindh was full of water.
Yeah.
Sindh was full of water. There were channels coming out of the Indus from Ghotki, from Larkana, from Sakhar, from Panjnad, coming all the way down. The Nara Canal was a shark of the Indus, right? In the same way that the Ganga, the delta of the Ganga takes over all of Bengal, that's what Sindh used to look like.
Yeah.
None of us have a living memory of that.
No.
But Sindh, and in 1850, when the British first entertained the idea of building a barrage at Sakhar, they did an investigation and they thought it was ridiculous because they said, Sindh has more water than all of the combined rivers of Punjab. Imagine. Imagine, Sindh had more water than Punjab.
Yeah.
And so the dolphins in the flood season would go into these channels. They would go into these these shakhe, Darya-i Sindh ke shakhe, or distributaries, you would say in geographical terms of the Indus. And they were shallow, so they would easily be able to trap fish. They were warm. They could breed in these channels. They had their whole world. And it wasn't just the dolphins, fish species, the palla fish, which is now extinct in Pakistan. Yeah, you only find it in Jamshoro.
Yeah.
And that too seasonally. But the palla machli, which essentially is a symbol of Sindhi Hinduism.
Also staple food.
It's a staple food. It's a symbol of Sindhi Hinduism. It's a symbol of Sindhi Sufi culture. It's a representation of Khizr Nabi alayhi salam. It's a representation of Jule Lal. This sacred fish for the sake of the green revolution that the world, this idea of the green revolution that the World Bank sold to us. We sacrifice not only our river and our biodiversity, we sacrificed our culture for the World Bank.
Yeah.
We gave the World Bank our culture.
And what did we get in return?
Nothing. Debt.
Yes.
Debt.
Absolutely.
Of course, farmland increased.
Yeah,
Okay, like we can be real here. We can be real and we can say
the rich got richer.
The rich got richer.
Yeah.
There's more farmland. There is more food. But of course, in order to, when these irrigation systems were built by the British and then by the IMF, whole populations had to be imported to farm.
Yeah.
So it was a self-serving system, right?
Yeah.
Sindh was a sparsely populated province.
Right.
Even Punjab was sparsely populated. You know, this idea of Punjab being this sort of mega populous area is a product of the irrigation projects of the British. And who built the canal systems of Sakhar Barrage? It was famine victims from the rest of India. Sindh did not have a famine. Bengal had famines. North India had many famines. There were strings of famines that killed people in the tens of millions. I think there's something like a ridiculous, morbid amount of 40 million people that died in these famines. Sindh did not have a famine.
Yeah.
So what did they have to do with this surplus population, right, that was starving?
Yeah.
They made them dig out these canals to come out of Sakhar Barrage and then settle them in Sindh and Karachi.
Yeah.
So it was a self-serving system,
Right.
So the dolphins would follow these canals. Now that's the thing. To this day, they go into the canals. They have a great old time. Then the winter season comes. The canal gates close. They have no way to go back.
Right.
And they are susceptible to getting caught in nets as bycatch. And because dolphins breathe oxygen, every 2 to 3 minutes they have to come up. They can drown. Dolphins can drown. So if they get caught in a net, they can't come up. They drown within 5 minutes. If the water goes down and if there's sun or if there's cold wind, they die from exposure. They have no melanin in their skin that can absorb sun rays, right? That like we might have. And they are susceptible to fear and ignorance. People shoot them.
Yeah.
And so the Sindh Wildlife Department began a project in the early 90s whereby they would physically rescue these river dolphins and put them back in the Indus River.
Right.
If you tell a marine biologist this, and I met an American marine biologist, she was saying Pakistan is a unique example in the fact that dolphins are physically handled.
Yeah.
They said, you know, and I asked her, she said in Mexico there's an endangered group of dolphins that numbers maybe only 50 in the Gulf of, I think the Baja California, which is this big peninsula that's on the west side of Mexico. I could be wrong though. And they tried to handle one, it died of a heart attack.
Ours are pretty hardy.
Yeah, ours it's funny, ours have a bit of a like, okay, I guess let's see where this is going. And
Go with the flow.
Yeah. And even in India, the same Giorgio Pillari scientist who I was saying, he went to the Brahmaputra and he thought he could handle their dolphins just as well. They tried to take 5 out of the river, all 5 died of heart attacks and 1 was pregnant.
Oh,
and yet with our river dolphins, not only did they take them out of the river, they took them on a train from Rohde to Karachi, put them in the swimming pool of the Midway Hotel for a night.
How did they go in this train?
It's because they breathe air, right? So they just put a gila tolia around them.
That sounds a little unbelievable.
It's very believable. I've seen it. I was there during a dolphin rescue.
Tolia बांध के dolphin को
I was there during a dolphin rescue.
Okay.
We took the dolphin out of the canal.
Okay.
We put it in a stretcher that had a wet foam.
Okay.
And then we wrapped around it a wet towel. And then where its melon was, right? This is where so we have our nostrils here. So their nostrils are here. This is where they breathe, right? So I was in charge of patting the dolphin around its blowhole. Okay, I was 15 years old.
Okay.
That experience alone is most likely the single most sublime experience I think I will ever have in my life.
I can believe that.
I will ever have in my life.
Yeah.
And I will never forget that whole day. I'll forget what happened yesterday. I have no idea what I had for breakfast.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I had for lunch.
Yeah.
But I will not forget that.
That dolphin.
That dolphin
Yeah.
and that day. It was a young 4-year-old male. And they lived to about 35, by the way. And I remember I was next to it and I was breathing, you know, I was, and the dolphin itself was also going. So, and it survived. It survived the way to the river. It survived being put in the river.
Amazing.
And of course, we have proof. We have documentation of those dolphins once they got to Switzerland.
Amazing.
I mean, there's photographs of them when they got to their holding tank.
Yeah.
They survived not only the train ride from Rori to Karachi, then the swimming pool at the Midway Hotel, but also the flight from Karachi to Bern.
Okay, I believe you. I believe
They
you. It just
survived
sounds unbelievable.
And then they survived the car ride to the Bern Anatomy Institute.
Okay.
But they only lived for a few months in captivity. And they were young. They were a young male and a young female, too young to breed even. They were not even sexually mature. It was, by today's standards, this would be considered cruel.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it did offer us a lot of information. Not only us, but the whole river dolphin conservation community. There are 6 river dolphins in the world. And they're all very different. They all live in very different environments. They all have very, very different needs and requirements. Yet this book created a foundation. Pakistan created a foundation for river dolphin conservation globally. Why is that important? Right. Because rivers, especially rivers in Asia, where half of the river dolphin community lives, are so overexploited. The Ganga, the Sindhu,
right.
the Irrawaddy, the Yangtze, the Mekong, right? These are where all of the river dolphins exist. These are the most highly populous countries in Asia.
People may ask you that you saw the floods up close as well.
I did, yeah.
And it was pretty devastating that entire time. And
it was.
So people might ask you that you're investing so much into saving dolphins. People need saving, especially in Pakistan, also in Sindh, also in these rural areas where they're very vulnerable to climate change and to rains and to floods. And do you call yourself an activist? You don't.
No, I'm embracing it now.
You're embracing it, okay.
I didn't used to.
Okay.
But it's a heavy word.
It's a healthy word,
because it involves, the very word implies that you're active all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So as an activist, now how are you choosing what you're going to be active about? Or what you're going to raise your voice about? You do dabble in textiles, so you're doing a lot of, but that's something you do for yourself? Or are you also working with a community? Is it community building? No, it's not. This is for you, for yourself. So your activism is for community. And you're very far away from politics. And I assume you don't want to get into politics. No. So how are you choosing your causes? And what do you feel right now for people? What is the most important thing that needs focus?
I have always based my activism, social activities, samaji karkun activities.
You say it like it's like cynically.
Yeah. But I've always based whatever the word we want to use for whatever I've done.
Yeah.
I've always based it on a gut feeling.
Right.
When the floods happened, I was here working on an exhibition. And I was getting calls. First, I got calls from Taunsa Sharif. Then I started getting calls from my own home. And
home being Larkana.
Larkana,
right?
Al-Murtaza. And how could I sit here? That was my thought. I was actually in this very room, stressed out.
Yeah.
Thinking, how can I just sit here? Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Those are my people. That's my land. That's those are the farmers who tend to my land. That is, how can I just leave them, chin deep in rainwater?
Yeah.
So I went. I had nothing. I didn't have any ration. I didn't have any money on me. I didn't have whatever. I just knew I had to go. I followed a very gut instinct. I called, the driver. I said, "Get the car ready." And we, in my Corolla, not even, I mean, we don't have a double cabin. We went in our Corolla. And I remember the water, it's because you have the Kirthar hills on one side. So, and the highway, that's the thing. That's when I realized that our infrastructure, our amazing highway infrastructure, CPEC, SHEPEC, BPEC, right? They were dams.
Yes.
Right? They stopped any natural
flow,
drainage.
Yeah.
We as a nation have become so obsessed with water storage and punishing the Indus for existing, right, by not letting her go to the sea, that we have forgotten about the importance of drainage, which is equally, if not more important than water storage.
Yeah.
So when we were on the highway the first time, I was seeing water rise on this side from the Kirthar, and I was seeing water rise on this side from AHI Sindh.
Wow.
And we reached Larkana, and Al-Murtaza House is, if anyone knows Larkana, it's quite central.
Yeah.
And we couldn't, the whole place around it was flooded because a lot of Sindhi cities are developed in such a way that as the roads get new, the roads get higher, or sab purane jo jagah hai wo niche. Exactly. So our house became a cup. We had to park the car somewhere else, and so we sort of waddled with all my luggage to the gate, to the house. And I said, let's go, let's see the damage. And, we went, and the people who were on my mind were the wildlife officers who I had worked with,
right,
and who had helped me. I wanted to visit them. I wanted to visit the farmers, and I wanted to visit the house of each of my staff.
Right.
And people were taking pictures.
Yeah.
And these pictures went on the internet.
Yeah.
And then people noticed that I had done this work. But that's the thing. I mean, I in my mind, I knew I had a responsibility, and I had to fill that responsibility. I didn't go thinking I'm an NGO and I'm going to start a human rights organization, and I'm going to falana.
Because you're not a politician.
Because I'm not a politician.
Yeah.
I went as a feeling of like, this is what I should do. I have obligations. And it's funny because to this day, people, I get little criticisms here and there. Not that I pay too much attention, but I get little criticisms I see on Twitter here and there. Okay, oh, it was just a photo op. Oh, it was just a this. Oh, it was just a that. I'm sorry, it's not my fault that my own farmers took pictures on me and put them on my TikTok.
Yeah.
So like,
cute.
It is cute. It's cute.
Yeah, there's a cuteness about it.
And there was a cuteness about it, and it wasn't a photo op.
No,
it
wasn't. Yeah.
And like, it's not my fault I looked good, maybe. I'm joking. I'm joking.
I mean,
no, but I think for me that did give me a sense of, okay, you are who you are. You have obligations towards your people. You have obligations towards at least those that live around you, those who depend on you, those, you just have obligations.
So let me drive you back from Larkana back to Karachi, where it's home, right? And
Larkana's home.
Larkana's home. And but you're multi-ethnic as well. Do you feel at all like Arab as well?
Of course.
You do?
Of course.
Yeah, tell me about that. I mean, why is home not there? Because your mom comes and goes, right? And
yes.
So,
yes.
yeah.
I also come and go. I was just there last week.
Right.
My Arabness taught me how to be strong. In 2006, when Israel invaded, baby, careful, stop it. When Israel bombed Lebanon in 2006 and it attempted an occupation, we were there.
Right.
And we received the bombs. We heard the bombs. Our apartment shook. We heard the planes. We heard the fighter jets. And my mother, when she refused to leave.
To leave. Wow.
She said, we'll stay. You need to experience a war. You need to know what war is like.
I don't know many mothers who would say that.
But she said, you children need to know what a war is like. And we stayed for the entire month of that war. And I am so grateful to my mother, to Lebanon, to Hezbollah, to Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, for defending the Lebanese people, and for not cowering away. There's so much of this liberal rhetoric. We don't want to be dragged into a war. Like now with what's happening in Gaza, for example. Where's Pakistan's military might when it comes to the Zionists?
Absolutely.
Where did it go? What, we're going to boycott Gucci and McDonald's and everything's going to be better. And Chanel. And we're going to throw away our Chanel bags and buy Maria B. Love her. So why, that's
the highlight of
the highlight of Pakistan's involvement in defending the people of Gaza has been to throw away our Gucci bags and buy Maria B. And that's pathetic. Where are our troops? Where are our soldiers?
No, they don't want to get
Where is our willingness to fight? The Lebanese people, sure, there's people don't want war. People don't want to die. But if the situation demands bravery, then be brave. Like Yemen, like they said, when they got bombed by US and UK after they blocked the trade routes, right? They said, it is an honor for us to be bombed. We feel ashamed that our brothers and sisters in Gaza are facing this, and we are not.
Yeah. Those are amazing words. I mean,
that is a people.
Those are absolutely.
And Arabness Arabness taught me this.
Yeah.
Arabness taught me not to be afraid to die. And my father's time in Lebanon and my father's time in Syria and my father's time abroad taught him this too.
Yeah.
And also his own grandfather. I mean, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, my grandfather, say what you will about him.
Yeah.
Whatever opinion you have about him, say what you will, I don't care. But when they sentenced him to death and he had the option to appeal, he said, don't you dare. I am an innocent man. We do not need to appeal. The world needs to see that Pakistan executed an innocent man. And I think this is something that was innate inside him.
Yeah.
But he also had a relationship with the Arab world, right? With Arab leaders who were coming face to face with the Zionists on a daily basis in the 60s and the 70s. So this willingness to sacrifice, right? And to bear the burden of war is what I learned from my Lebanese side.
Right. Not that there wasn't enough warfare on your Pakistani side as well.
There's plenty of warfare on our Pakistani
side.
Yeah, there's plenty of warfare on our Pakistani side. And I've seen death at my front door in Pakistan. I've seen death at my front door twice. I mean, it's my father's murder, for which we still have not received justice for. That happened at my doorstep. And then in 1994, also, the police shot at our door in Al-Murtaza house and killed one of our guards.
Yeah.
So this is not a house that's unfamiliar to warfare.
Yeah.
And I think as the world changes, as the world order changes, we need need to be prepared to maybe give up some comforts.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Not just your Gucci bags.
Not just your Gucci
Yeah,
bags.
no, not just your Gucci.
Not just your Gucci bags. Yeah.
I think you're very brave as well.
No.
I think you're very brave. I think it takes a lot of bravado just to be human these days.
It does.
And I think you're very brave. And I hope you stay this way. And I also hope you stay here because I think you're an inspiration for an entire generation.
Thank you.
That finds it cool to be here, you know? Yeah.
Yes, no,
it is cool.
You
have to be cool
but
to be
and
here,
you have to nurture that. You have to nurture that.
Absolutely.
You have to nurture you have to nurture love, you have to nurture bravery, you have to and kindness is a form of bravery, by the way. Love is a form of bravery.
Absolutely.
You have to nurture these things. You don't just have them. Yeah.
I don't know whether one day you will step into politics. I don't know. But I'm sure that whatever you do, you'll think of people
and
animals.
Oh,
and that's very reassuring that people are doing that.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Every living being, even the living being you eat, deserves dignity.
Dignity, absolutely.
Deserves dignity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, people in this country are not granted dignity as much as they should.
Yeah, absolutely. This was an amazing conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, I hope people get inspired. वापस आएं अपने मुल्क वापस आएं.
इंशाल्लाह आएंगे, जरूर आएंगे.
Thank you, Zulfikar.
Thank
you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.